For this assignment, open your handout sheet, which is called Creating a Dynamic Block. On that first page, you notice there is a illustration that shows a figure for a bed. The bed that we show on the top view or the plan view. The goal of this assignment is to create a block which be able to create with different sizes rather than multiple blocks. We have just one block to be variable, so to speak, to be able to adjust the sizes. So basically the symbol that we show for bed on furniture layout on the floor plan would be something similar to this. Here there are some basic dimensions given to you: 75 by 39 and 14, which this distance here. So our goal is to create this as a block, just only one block, to make him dynamic, so to speak, be variable sizes. So let's start this with new file and change the limits for this one, because the number you see is larger than our template size, which is 11 by 8.5. So adjust your limits by either typing the limits or going to format and selecting the drawing limits, and make sure it starts from 0, 0 for lower left corner and upper left corner to be 120 by 100. That would be a good size for this one to start. So I do have that information for you. While you are working with this assignment, you may open your PDF file as well. Okay, let's continue on creating this shape with that specifications. You can select the rectangle, but I would recommend just to start with the line. If it's rectangle, it's already made as one object, and then you have to explode. So start with the line tool. It's very simple to do with line command. I'm going to go back to select line tool from the menu and select a point on the screen, and then have your ortho on F8 function key, and then type 75 and set your mouse on the direction going down, and then type 39, press enter, and you can retype those 75 or just track the first one, and then left click and close the polygon. Press enter to finish the line tool and select the offset tool. You can select from the modify tool or just simply type O for offset, and then type 14. As you see, already I have 14 here because I did this before. It shows 14. Yours might show 1. Type 14, press enter, and then select the line. The side that you want to offset to would be any point inside. Once you define that 14 distance, press enter to end offset command. Now we have this. One thing notice, I did set my current layer to 0. Remember, your default layer is under this template that you're using for this class is object. So make sure switch to 0 layer. So do not use on the object layer, because 0 layer has advantages that adapts to your host layer. Whenever your layer changes and you insert the block, it's going to follow properties of that particular layer that you are working with. At this point, I'm going to select the block tool from insert menu. You can access to from the ribbon. You can select the create block, or also you can go draw. If you have this pull down available, select block. You create the block from here as well. So I'm going to just select this create block here, and then define the block by defining the name first. I'm going to call this one bed, and then pick point for defining the base point. Base point by selecting the little button here that says pick point. We define the point on the lower left corner here, and then select object. There's a little tab that says select object, and select entire drawn by using the crossing from right to left, be faster, and then press enter, finishing the selection. Now on this option, this time I'm going to leave that one convert to a block. Also, I want to edit this block. I can set this box checked saying open in block editor. So each time you bring this block in, would open in editor. I prefer not to check that box, and I show you a different method of editing a block. So we say OK to finish this one. And notice I converted to block already. So this existing one, that message I received because I had already done this before was showing me, do you want to redefine this name? I said yes, and now updated that bed block. Remember, this block is not ready for editing until you double click on it. Any place, double click, and opens. This says bed, and say OK. Says notice there are only two blocks here. One is the template, which is also block, and also bed. You select bed and say OK. As soon as you do that, it is opened with this tool palette here, which we're going to use for dynamic block. On this right side, you see there are some different tabs. Right now I'm on the action tab. The first one you will select is select the parameter on the very first tab on the right. Just click on that one. When you select this, it's going to open up some choices here. In this parameter, we're going to define this in the linear. Our goal is to define this block that be able to dynamically change the size. That's our goal. Here we will say linear, and then we will pick a point on the left corner here, and then on the right another point, snap to, make sure your endpoint is on, and then asks for location of this, which shows also by default is distance, and then you repeat this for the vertical distance, selecting the point 1 here, and then did not select the command. I need to select the linear first, and then select the point, second point, and distance 2. So we have created these two distances. And also I would suggest you to change the name. You learn how to do that by just simply selecting that distance 1, right click, and say you want to rename this parameter to column something like length or something in that, so it defines exactly what they are. So here, rather than distance 1 and distance 2, we say length. So you learn how to also change. So for just click inside that box and change them to length. Okay, and so that's changed to length. Just delete the extra pieces here. So that's done, and then click any point outside. So you can change this one as well if you like. Just click and right click and rename parameter, and then change this one also to width. So that's what you have, length and width, rather than distance 1 and distance 2. This way is more explains. Okay, after that we're going to have some action to add it to this. Notice there are little yellow sign here that says this is because we have not defined an action. So the next step is to add some action to these parameters. For that, you select the tab that says actions. On this, there are choices. One is scale, one is move, one is stretch. I'm going to select the stretch tool. And then you're going to select the parameter length. I'm selecting that, and is asking you specify parameter point associated with action or enter. So I'm going to select this point that you see here, little red box. You can either select this point on the left or the right. In this case, we're going to go stretch on this direction. So pick this point here. And the next step is to asking, select the first corner of the stretch. The way stretch command works, of course, we learned that in the previous class, that stretch goes always crossing the best to select from right to left. From right to left, select this window in this manner, where everything inside that box selected except the line on the left. So everything else is going to be selected once it touches. You notice that everything is inside is going to be selected. But it's not selected until you come back and inside this, select these items. Select these items. And it's going to automatically pick that. So first create the crossing, and then inside that crossing, select those items that you want to stretch. After that, press enter. Now you have created an action. As you notice here, little tool came up. It says stretch. It says stretch here. And you can rename that one if you want to, but in this case, it's okay. So we repeat this for also width here by going to action tool and stretch one more time. This time we are going to select the width parameter. And then we are going to select what point. You see, as I move my cursor, this red X shows the point. I'm going to pick this upper left corner point. Left click on that. Next, specify corner of stretch frame. Then shows polygon in option here if you want to select the polygon, but I'm going to leave the default, which is rectangle, by selecting somewhere, again, from right to left, and upper right corner, where everything is selected within that window or crossing, except this line. And then inside, I'm going to select all these lines. All these lines are selected. Once it's selected, press enter to end this step. At this time, you should have another action here that shows also stretch 1. You can rename 2 as well if you want to, but stretch 1. Now we have defined these blocks, or kind of modified this block. At this time, you want to close block editor, the little green check mark here. When you do that, click on that one, left click, and it's going to tell you this, that you want to save the changes or discard the changes. Of course, we want to save the changes. And then now you have this block. What it changed for this block is, if you click on it, you are going to see two arrows on those corners that I picked. So these allows us to stretch this. If everything I did was correct, then I click on that one, you see it becomes red. Then I can drag this to change. I can make that size by typing what I want to change to, or just a simply right now illustration that you see that same shape but different sizes. So imagine you have, in the case of bed, we have twin size, king size, queen size, and there are different standard sizes, and I have given you on the standard sheet some of those sizes. You can define those and create those accordingly. So I hope that this helps you to a little bit once you're reading that handout sheet to clarify some of those actions that you took to create this dynamic block. This is the one form of dynamic block. There are other options as you see under that. This was just a linear action we made it here, or stretch with linear parameter with these stretch actions. There are other actions as well that we can make to dynamic block to adapt. Imagine this feature can be applied to many things, like in the windows or doors in architectural. You can create one block, make them different size of doors with one dynamic block.